Welcome to WT History. In this series, we list all the major events that happened in the world in a year, starting from 1776 to 2024. On January 8th, President George Washington delivered the very first State of the Union address, setting a precedent for future presidents to outline their vision for the country. On February 1st, the Supreme Court of the United States convened for the first time, a moment that cemented the judiciary as a pillar of the American government. Later, on March 1st, the first U.S. Census was authorized. Conducted later that year, it tallied approximately 3.9 million people living in the 13 states. On March 21st, Thomas Jefferson officially stepped into his role as the first Secretary of State, reporting to George Washington. On April 10th, the United States took a giant leap in innovation by establishing its patent system. By July 31st, Samuel Hopkins became the first recipient of a U.S. patent for his improved method of producing potash. Sadly, this year also marked the end of an era. On April 17th, Benjamin Franklin, one of America's greatest minds and founding fathers, passed away at the age of 84. Over 20,000 mourners attended his funeral in Philadelphia, and even revolutionary France observed 3 days of mourning to honor his legacy. His contributions to science, diplomacy, and freedom are still celebrated today. On May 29th, the original 13 states were finally complete when Rhode Island ratified the U.S. Constitution. As the last state to do so, Rhode Island cemented its place in the Union. By July 16, President George Washington signed the Residence Act into law, confirming the District of Columbia as the future capital, though Philadelphia would serve temporarily. Later that year, on August 4th, the U.S. passed a tariff act that created the Revenue Cutter Service, the forerunner to today's Coast Guard. On October 20th, the Harmar Campaign ended in disaster for the U.S. Army. General Josiah Harmar suffered a defeat at the hands of the Western Confederacy of Native American tribes at Cakeyonga, highlighting the ongoing struggle for control in the Northwest Territory. Finally, on November 27th, George and Martha Washington moved to Philadelphia, settling into the new temporary capital at 524 Market Street. Across the Atlantic, France was in the midst of revolution. On February 4th, King Louis XVI declared his support for constitutional laws in a move toward a constitutional monarchy. On March 4th, France reorganized itself into 83 départements, breaking old noble-controlled provinces and promoting national unity. By July, Louis XVI officially accepted the constitutional monarchy. Around this time, the civil constitution of the clergy was passed on July 12th, dismantling monastic orders and nationalizing church property. And on July 14th, the citizens of Paris celebrated the Fête de la Fédération, symbolizing the unity of the French people. Later in the year, on November 24th, the French government mandated that all Roman Catholic priests swear an oath of loyalty to the new constitution. Elsewhere, the United States of Belgium was formed on January 11th by rebels in the Austrian Netherlands, though it lasted less than a year before Austrian forces reclaimed control in December. Meanwhile, in the South Pacific, on January 15th, Fletcher Christian and his fellow mutineers aboard the HMS Bounty landed on Pitcairn Island. This marked the beginning of one of history's most famous maritime stories, as they established a small community on the remote island. Mozart premiered Così fan tutte in Vienna on January 26th, another masterpiece cementing his place as a musical genius. On January 30th, Henry Greathead tested the world's first specialized rescue lifeboat on the River Tyne, revolutionizing maritime safety. Not all events were uplifting, however. That same day, the Olowalu Massacre occurred in Hawaii, where American sailors killed around 100 Hawaiians in a tragic act of violence. The Russo-Swedish War also saw fierce battles, including the Battle of Reval on May 13th and the Second Battle of Svensund on July 9th, where Sweden claimed a decisive victory. On May 17th to 18th, the Battle of Andros saw an Ottoman-Algerian fleet decisively destroy the fleet of Greek privateer Lambros Katsonis, marking a significant naval engagement. On June 9th, royal assent was granted for the establishment of the port of Milford Haven in Wales, enhancing trade and maritime activity. Shortly after, on June 23rd, the infamous London Monster was arrested in London, leading to a 40-year sentence for committing 10 assaults, which shocked the public at the time. In China, 1790 marked the birth of the Peking Opera on September 25th, when Anhui troops introduced their art to Beijing in honor of the Qianlong Emperor's 80th birthday. On September 30th, Leopold II began his reign as Holy Roman Emperor, ushering in a new chapter for the empire. On October 10th, an earthquake and tsunami devastated the Algerian city of Oran, killing 3,000 people and displacing Spanish forces. Between October and December, Vincent Auger led a rebellion of freed blacks in Saint-Domingue, demanding equality, but the rebellion was suppressed and Auger was executed. On the December 10th, the Hawkesbury and Nepean Wars began in New South Wales, Australia, driven by worsening relations and expanding colonization, marking the onset of significant conflict in the region. And in Mexico City, on December 17th, the iconic Aztec calendar stone was discovered, offering a glimpse into the rich cultural heritage of Mesoamerica. The year ended with a dramatic military victory. On December 22nd, Russian forces under Alexander Suvorov stormed the fortress of Izmail, inflicting heavy losses on the Ottoman Turks during the Russo-Turkish War. Thanks for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed this deep dive into 1790, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more. Until next time, stay curious.